I'm Mr. MegaManFan. Welcome back to Genesis Does, and this is NFL 95, which some of you may remember I got from the Retro Swap Box a couple of months ago, right around the time the coronavirus pandemic was starting to really get epic in the United States. The state of Washington, New York City, Southern California, all over the place. It was very troubling for a lot of people, and there was a very good possibility that this was going to be the last retro swap box we were doing for a while. So I was grateful when I got a complete inbox Sega Genesis game that I didn't have. Now here's the funny thing about me, Mr. MegaManFan. I love sports. I'm a sports junkie. I've been a Cubs fan my whole life, a Chicago Bears fan. I lived in Michigan for a few years, so I got to like the Detroit Red Wings quite a bit because they were the best team in Michigan when I was living there. I root for Iowa State in college football and college basketball because that's my alma mater. Thankfully, most of the time, at least one of those two teams is good. I love sports, but I'm terrible at sports video games. I'm good at action games. I'm good at shoot 'em ups. I'm good at role playing games. I'm good at strategy games. I'm good at puzzle games. Sports games are my Achilles heel. Unless it's a real arcade slam bang wham bam thinky ma'am type NBA jam, I'm not very good. And part of it is, even though I will take Ryan Taylor's advice and read instructions for something like this, there are so many things to remember and memorize and try to do, and I'm no good at play calling or making adjustments on the field or doing any of the necessary scouting to figure out how to run the best plays against an offense or a defense. It is not my forte. And I feel it's sort of ironic that I work as a journalist. This is not my full time job, as you might have guessed. YouTube is just something that I do for fun as a hobby, but I cover sports for a living. I cover combat fighting. So you would think that would translate somehow into me being an expert at sports games, and that is not the case. I just, I don't know. It's not that I hate playing games like this, it's just I don't ever seem to get very good at them. There's a level at which I could succeed at sports games, and that was like double dribble. That was about the point I peaked. Once it got into the 90s, and I had a roommate in college that I shared a Sega Genesis with, whenever I played NHL with him, he would almost always routinely whoop me. He got so good at beating the computer that beating me was not even a problem. So, yes, but I'm not saying I don't enjoy sports games. I'm just saying you will probably enjoy the epic fail of me playing one more than I will enjoy the experience, because that's kind of how it goes when it comes to sports video games and me. But special thanks to Dave Albert, Michael Latham, Jerry Marcotta, Joe Miller, David Platcho, Doug Reibert, Brian Riley. Boy, they put this in there right at the beginning of the game. I guess they assumed nobody would stick around for credits at the end. No thanks to the SFO baggage crew and Jay's refrigerator, whatever that's all about. So here we have a classic mid-1990s NFL matchup as the default game. The 49ers and the Cowboys, one of the most legendary rivalries in the NFL. NFL Films has made many videos about that over the years. Let me tell you a little more about this game itself. I'll go to the Wikipedia entry for it. NFL 95 is the sixth game in the Joe Montana Football NFL series, but they stopped calling it Joe Montana Football with NFL 95. Maybe because Joe Montana was no longer with the 49ers at that point, ironically enough, even though the 49ers are the featured team that I'm playing here. So the game is similar to NFL Football 94 starring Joe Montana, except in this version there is no play-by-play commentary. That may actually be an improvement, or you may find it's awfully silent a lot of the time, because you'll just hear a white noise channel imitating what a crowd would sound like and not a whole lot else. The rosters of the teams are updated to reflect the 1994 NFL season, and there are more plays for the teams to perform on offense and defense. Despite the updated rosters, it's notable that it still had Deion Sanders as a member of the Atlanta Falcons instead of the 49ers, who Sanders signed with as a free agent during the offseason. The 49ers went on to win Super Bowl 29 in Sanders' only season with the team before signing with the rival Dallas Cowboys the following season. And with the 49ers being in the most recent Super Bowl that we watched in 2020, that came up quite a bit because they were going through past seasons of the 49ers history. Of course, it was even more epic for the Kansas City Chiefs to win in only Patrick Mahomes' second season in the NFL as the starting quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, and the fact that the Chiefs hadn't won the big game in 40, 50 years, some ridiculously long time, even though the conference championship trophy is named for the owner of the Chiefs from that era, Lamar Hunt. They won the Lamar Hunt trophy, and then they won the Super Bowl, and they hadn't been there in, I guess, the longest span of any NFL franchise. So hats off to them, and especially given that we may not be seeing any NFL this year, that was quite an accomplishment for them and something that will be remembered for a long time to come. In fact, this game may be the future of watching sports on television. We may be seeing a whole lot of NFL games played in Madden 2020 instead of actual football players with a crowd of fans actually watching. It depends on how this whole pandemic thing shakes out by the time we get to October, November, December when NFL games would be played. The XFL didn't survive this. They got through like 5 games of the regular season that they were in before one of the players on the Seattle team tested positive for the coronavirus. And at that point, the XFL was like, nope, shut it down. League's done. We're not playing the rest of the year. And I mean, basically everything shut down. Major League Baseball postponed its season. The NBA put itself on hiatus. The NHL, everybody went into lockdown at that point. Uh, there's always a point when I play sports games like this where I know I stink at them and I just start to screw around, like purposefully going offsides one play after another just because I can. It's not like they eject you from the game if you keep doing it. It'd be funny if they did. So anyway, this game, according to Wikipedia, features free agency, which was introduced to the NFL a year prior to the game's release, and, quote, varied in-game music, unquote. The game was followed by similar releases, primetime NFL football starring Deion Sanders, NFL 97, and NFL 98. It was critically acclaimed. Electronic Gaming Monthly hailed it as the best football game of the year. They were particularly enamored with the feature of the option to control the receiver catching the ball, and they gave it scores of 87 and 92%. GamePro called it a strong contender to Madden 95, but they concluded Madden 95 was better for quick games and arcade-style play, which means I'd probably be better playing Madden 95. Oh, man. I've tried playing sports games with friends of mine other than my college roommate, and invariably, unless the person playing is equally inept at playing sports games, they're going to be better than me. If it's anybody that's like sat at home and played an entire season of Madden, forget about it. And that's what makes it no fun for me, is I'm just going to get steamrolled by whoever I'm playing against due to the inexperience gap between the two of us. Whereas when I'm playing against the AI of the robots or enemies or the RPG and the monsters in it, I know it's me versus the game and not me versus someone with vastly more experience. So the more experience I get in the game, not just leveling up my character, but in terms of playing the game, the game's mechanics, the style, the action, the feel, I can improve and I can best the game through my own improvement, but I can never achieve enough improvement to make up the gap. And with a sports game, I don't want to make that investment to improve the gap because I'd rather be playing something I enjoy more, like arcade games, shoot 'em ups, role playing games, and puzzle games. It's a whole circular thing. Like, I'm not good at sports games, but then I'm not good at sports games because I don't want to get good at sports games because I'd rather be playing something other than sports games. You see the problem here? So I love the fact that this is a complete in box addition to my Sega Genesis collection, but it's one of those things where it's probably not surprising that it was an addition to my collection because I haven't exactly gone out of my way to acquire sports games. You end up with sports games. You get them in lots of games. You get them for $1 a game at some sellers in some stores. I remember one year when I was back in Michigan visiting friends, I went to a Goodwill or a thrift store of some kind, and they had a pile of like 40 sports games complete in box for $1 each, and I picked out 10 Sega Genesis games and took them all home with me just because I wanted to add more Sega Genesis games to my collection. But that's usually how it goes. Like, sports games are the easiest to acquire because there's the most copies of them made in most cases. There are exceptions. There are low print run games like an NCAA game for GameCube that got a ridiculously short print run. It does happen, but most of the time, sports games are incredibly common and plentiful when you go to video game stores because people always trade them in to get the latest year's sports game. If you had the previous year Madden, you get rid of that and get the latest Madden. So, bottom line is, this is a good game, and I'm sure anybody else will enjoy it, but I'm just not good at it. Thanks for watching.